September 9th, 1805. The point of the Missouri where this Indian Pass intersects it is about 30 miles above the gates of the Rocky Mountains, or the place where the valley of the Missouri first widens into an extensive plain after entering the Rocky Mountains. The guide informed us that a man might pass to the Missouri from hence by the route in 4 days. We called this Creek Traveler's Rest. I like how oh, let's give this a new name. And there was like already a guide telling them exactly how to get there. Like there wasn't already a name for it.
I like how he's vaguely British.
That says in my mind, that's how he talks.
Welcome everybody to another day of survey in No Man's Sky. Once again, we are looking through the system, looking for player activity in the game. As of right now, Mike chose an unfortunate time to join me, so he is actually probably halfway across the galaxy, and we're trying to get him back to where he should be so we can continue. And I see you did load in with me here, so we should be in good shape to continue.
All right. Now, let me check, verify.
I'm going to land at the station because I assume you need fuel.
You would assume correctly, sir.
The good news is I have found out that I can just lay down a device on a planet that will harvest fuel for me. So that's going to make our fuel requirements much easier to deal with.
Much better for me as well. Does that mean I have to start doing this on my own?
No. I can give you all the fuel you could possibly need.
Sold. Okay, I am currently trying to dock with the space station. There you are. How do you like the sound of my voice?
It sounds much upgraded.
That's because it is.
Hey.
I went to radio school last week, and so I learned how to speak a lot better
all
into a
skill.
mic. It's just all skill. It has nothing to do with the equipment. Why, hello.
Hello.
I guess we still haven't done our rebranding effort.
Nope, we have not. You say hello, but I don't see you yet.
I see you running around, in circles around me.
I guess I'll
That's
go
strange.
take off and land again. See if that loads it, maybe.
Weird.
Need to be able to see you so I can give you fuel.
Yes, this is a serious problem if we can't work this out.
Well, except for fuel, it's not that big of a deal.
That's true. Let me, while you're doing that, I will bring up
There's an exotic.
our survey document, wherever that's at. Because, you know, science.
Nope, I do not see you.
Oh, okay.
I guess I'll pop out and try coming back in then.
All right. So first I had technical difficulties, and now maybe you are.
I'm still blaming you.
Well, I can see you. You can't see me. So it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. I'm sure we'll figure it out.
So just a reminder, Mike, we have a small change to our typical procedure. We had just been putting both our initials down for everything we do, but based on that one system we found where I could see that someone had named it and you couldn't, I'm a little concerned that we may have some discrepancy in what we are able to see. Now, one way of dealing with that would be to record every single system 3 times, once on each platform, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. That's ridiculous. So
Yes.
really all we need to do is make sure we record who's doing what, and then if it comes down to it later and we start to realize there is a discrepancy, then we can at least calculate the error in our survey methods and account for that. So from now on, we'll just be making sure we put down our own initials for systems we record.
And also that way you can see how little work I'm actually doing.
Is
compared
actually
to
my
you.
true motivation is just so I can rub it
I
in
knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew when you told me that. I was like, this sounds like you're just trying to have bragging rights, really.
Yeah. Your inventory is all full.
Oh, all right. Okay, then that means that maybe I should give you some stuff. Here, let me see what I can get rid of here.
You can just delete things too if you have some stuff you just want to dump.
Everything I have is of critical importance, though.
Yeah. So critically, you're giving it away.
Like this salt. Would you like 3 things of salt?
Sure. And I will delete it.
There you go. You're welcome.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
So is that enough? You only need 1 slot of fuel?
Probably not. I mean, I have warp cells. Can I combine stuff?
If they're the same material. Up to a certain point.
Interesting. Okay. Let me get rid of something else too. Does it sound any better if I'm here or here? Which one's better, here
The second
or
one.
here?
Second one was better.
Like significantly better?
Yeah, noticeably.
Okay. Then I will just lean. I left my the microphone arm. I don't know what it's called at the office. So I just have or stand.
Yeah.
So I just have the regular stand for this mic, which works just fine, but takes a little bit more effort to speak in it, so you can hear me, and it sounds like I'm a guy on a radio show.
You had me fooled.
I had you. You can tell that fuel was on your mind when you said that.
Yes.
Don't be a fuel. Maybe we should just use that throughout this rest of this survey session.
That will be the gag.
That'll be the gag, and that will give you intro for the next one.
All right. You have enough?
Yeah, I think that should be good.
Okay. Let's go. I'll start with recording set if you want to start heading out to our 50 light year radius.
Oh, what? Wait a minute.
What?
I thought I renamed my ship. I didn't do that yet. We won't talk about it yet, but
Yeah.
I'll wait till 1:30, and then I figure by that time we'll have run out of stuff to talk about, and I could just bring it up. This is a good one, though.
Will I get it?
No, that's why it's a good one. All right, here we go. I think. There we go. Yeah, I had changed. Oh, whoa, look at this. Wait, I don't have to check a spaceship out.
You find the exotic? I've seen it there.
No, I think it's a fighter one, but it looks interesting. Okay, never mind. It's not that cool. From the back, it looked kind of cool, but as I got closer, I changed my mind.
Just pretending to be cool.
It was not. All right, here we go. Let's see here. So I need to put my initials down. Man, now I need to. Now I feel like pressure that I need to do better than you.
Yep, we'll have to do the count every single time, just so everybody knows.
People already know.
Oh, yes, thank you.
And by people, I mean Barbara and Hank.
And Hank. Hank definitely knows.
All right, I'm gonna check out this one that I cannot pronounce.
That's true for
And
most
I'm
of
not
these.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try.
They weren't made for human tongues.
That's true. I haven't done a whole lot with the language stuff on this game to like learn other languages. Just like in real life, really.
Oh, thanks, Barbara. Had the start banner still up.
Oh no. Good thing she was here.
Now we've started.
Did it so it didn't record all that stuff, or was just the
No, it
banner
recorded.
was
It just had the banner.
up? Oh, okay.
So it'll
yeah.
just look horribly unprofessional.
Well, that's exactly what this is.
Yes.
Although technically this is professional because we're getting paid to do this.
Right. And we are professionals, just not in this.
Not in this format. We are, I'd like to say that we're kind of like pioneers. Is this pioneering? I mean, I know other people have done this sort of thing, but my understanding is it's more about the research more so than the public outreach aspect. Is that accurate, or is that wrong?
I'd say most of what I've seen is more about the public aspect than the research.
Well, I'm wrong.
You are wrong. The research aspect is kind of developing now. Oh. Don't want to do pirates.
Yeah, I'm getting attacked right now. By multiple pirates. They're actually attacking a convoy, which in real life, pirates would never attack a convoy.
Too well protected. What just happened?
Oh wait, maybe I'm the one. What?
Are you
is
attacking the
happening?
convoy? Are you actually?
think I-
Were you the pirate all along?
I think that might be the case. Oh wait, no. I was just confused. I picked the wrong system. Okay. I think I got the last one. No thanks to any of these convoys.
And that's why pirates don't attack convoys.
That's exactly why they don't.
What
They
if there
did
was like
not.
a fleet of ships?
If there was a fleet, like a
Yep.
fleet of pirate ships?
Yeah.
Um,
How
I
brave do
guess
they
it-
get, I guess, is the question.
yeah. In that case, maybe. I mean, it happened on some occasions, but generally was not successful.
So really,
Generally
the
speaking.
threat to convoys is probably more, well, despite nature and such, probably more enemy countries, warships.
Oh,
and things.
definitely. Yeah, for sure. Like a fleet of warships that
Yeah.
were, sailing together as as a fleet. Yes, that would definitely be second to storms and hurricanes. That would be much more dangerous if they were traveling in convoy.
Sure.
All right. So I scanned one. Let me see. I didn't actually see how many planets I had here. Just wait. Where am I? Wait a minute. Oh, I'm just like super close to you. Weird.
Did you choose a system nearby?
I guess. I guess it's just really, really close. Maybe. Yeah, it's only 5 light years away, so that's why.
Huh.
That's probably the closest system I've ever have gone to from the radial one.
Really? If our nearest system in real life was 5 light years away, that would be a lot easier to get to visit it. I don't know what
So,
our
yeah, I was going to ask, do you know what the closest star is to Earth? I was looking on an app the other day and I found the second closest one, which I don't recall the name of that particular star now.
I think Alpha Centauri is the closest, but I'm not sure how close. I don't want to make something up. Because if I tried to just guess, I probably would end up doing that.
That sounds right to me. But still, if it was 5 light years, it's still way off from what we can do right now.
Yeah.
Trying to find another planet here. I think I'm missing one. It's hiding.
Your display in the middle of your console can show you if there's one hiding behind a planet, if you haven't noticed that already.
Yeah, I think I did know that.
Okay.
Maybe I did that. Oh, I found it. And nothing. Oh well.
If you had to check, could have been something.
Man, you've done that many already? What
Yep.
in the world? All right. Now now it's like, now that we record our names next to each one, this is kind of embarrassing.
I think I should highlight all mine in green or something. So it's even easier to see.
I don't think that'll be necessary. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares except for us. It's going back to the radial system. Burning more gas. You know, what's interesting is, why does it take me as long to jump to this radial system even though I'm only 5 light years away?
Because hyperspace. Quantum. Quantum.
I think it has something to do with loading the screen.
Yes, I'm sure.
Nice try. All right, let me get on to another one.
So did you end up reading that article about the Irish pirates?
I skimmed over. I didn't read the whole thing.
Were you
But I
aware
got the
of
gist.
Irish pirates before?
Actually, yeah. There's a guy that I'm trying to think of. I can't remember his name. An archaeologist. I think he's an archaeologist that wrote his master's or maybe dissertation on this. I believe it's what they think is possibly a pirate camp off the coast of, I think, Ireland or one of the islands near there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was looking at material culture to see if they could. And this is probably, this is back probably in the 1600s, I think, 1600s.
You mean the piracy or the research?
The I mean the research is modern, but
That's what I figured.
the period of piracy, I think that's right. So yeah, I did know that, I mean, pirates have basically everywhere. There's been humans that have had boats. There's been some form of it
Mm-hmm.
documented and recorded throughout time. They don't discriminate.
No.
All right, here we go. Round 2. Switch my view here. Make it a little bit easier to scan. I really hope we find something this time.
Yeah, I was going over for everyone who's listening. I've gone up and put all our reports on for previous surveys are all up online now on a new website. And I was going over that, and the system we found that had the player names was on the second day we were doing this, and then we haven't found any sign of player activity since.
What's the name of that website?
nmsarchaeology.weebly.com. I'll put it in chat. There. Still a little bit underway, but the reports are up and the landing page is finished for now anyway. All I got to do is get our survey plan and everything up and available.
And I can give people the executive summary. We have not found anything.
No, not what we're looking for anyway. The naming of that system and such, that's interesting and all, just not exactly what we're after. We're looking for specifically player bases.
One day we'll find it,
One day.
and then we'll do the field survey happy dance.
Yes, virtual version.
The virtual version. All right, coming back to radial. That's a big none for me.
We need to get that website up on our banners, actually.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. You can put it up on the YouTube channel too.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then the banner on there would be good. And if we get enough, well, I guess no, because it's a playlist. That's right. So, but we can still put it up there for sure. All right, next system. If I could. Busans. Did you do that one yet? No, I don't think you did. And I'm putting the any numerals behind it, since that's important.
Yes, they are actually.
I still don't believe yet that they are.
I mean, there could be 1 through 12 and you're just on the 13th or whatever.
Well, then I'll just have to remember which one was which
Yeah.
later on.
That's not how it works, and that's why we write stuff down.
I'll remember.
A key archaeological principle.
I'll remember a year from now.
Yeah. Or an hour from now.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. That's why field notes matter.
All right, here we go. Maybe this will be the one. Starting to think there's nothing out there.
Sooner or later, I'm sure we'll at least find systems that have been recorded by players. But it could be a while still.
Very likely. Nope. I think this is negative. I'm going to make sure that I don't have any other hiding planets. No. Oh, wait. Is there? I think there's one hiding from me.
That's going to be the one.
Nope. N-O. Oh, I already put none on there.
Oh, I put that in for you. I thought you were done with it.
Oh. Oh, okay.
I was just cursing you to not find anything.
Basically, yeah. Thanks a lot. All right, coming back. Whoop. Wait a minute. Oh, I have no fuel. I better fuel up.
Good thing you got a cargo hold full of it.
Pretty much.
Thanks to somebody.
Thanks to some stranger. If anybody needs free fuel, find Tristan. He's good for it.
Yeah, as long as you work for me.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of work. All right, coming back to the radial. Now that I've got the proper amount of fuel that I need in my spacecraft, formerly the Blue Plate Special, formerly the Event Horizon, formerly Icarus, formerly Gunstar, formerly what was the last one from Mandalorian? I don't even remember.
I didn't know that one.
I had whatever that name of that one was.
I'm impressed that you know most of the list.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I thought there was no way I would remember all those. Gun metal, gun something. No, Gunstar. Gunstar was the last one.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I have to look it up. But now I got a new name, so
we'll have to wait
people
for the
are on the
mystery.
edge of their seats. All right, let's see here. What do I need to do? You are on Goffel 1, so I'm not going to do that one. Kug Karam. Oh, that sounds cool. I'm going to do that one. Kug Karam. And it only has 3 stars. Or planets, I mean. Exploring more planets. Have you ever used that one of those Starfinder apps on your phone?
No, I'll say I don't think so.
Oh man, you don't know what you're missing.
Pretty cool, huh?
There's, yeah, it's really cool. So I noticed in the sky last night. My son has been doing, he's been doing the remote school, virtual school, and so he's got science lessons. And right now they're on like planets and stars. And so one of the assignments was to go out over. He had to come up with a hypothesis of whether the star or whether the objects in the sky would move at night. And so he had to make a hypothesis, and then like over 3 different nights he had to go outside and make observations, write down observations. And anyway, so when we were doing that, I found this app, and there's a bunch of them out there. Some of them you pay for, and some of them there's like free versions of. There's one's called, the one been using is called Skyview Lite, which is the free one. And
This is
it's
not
cool
a paid advertisement.
no, it's not. This is I would only use a free one. You know, that's
Sure,
just.
sure.
I'm sure there's other good ones out there. It's just the one that I use. If people know of other ones, I'd love to try them out. But it's cool because there were these really 2 bright objects, really super bright objects in the sky, and I was like, I wonder what stars those are. So I used the app, and I found out that they were not stars. It was Jupiter and Saturn,
Okay.
which is kind of cool. And then I saw Mars, found Mars last night. I had to wait for a while for it to come over the horizon, but it's pretty cool. It's a pretty
So-
cool little app. But it'll tell you constellations and different stars and how far away they are from Earth.
Cool. I've heard some will like draw the lines of the constellations for you and things too.
Yeah, this one does that.
Cool. That's really cool. So, what was the results of the hypothesis?
We're not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Well, so far, I mean, and it's because we've gone out at a couple different times, but they of course change position because the Earth is moving.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
Yeah, if
like
you
a
ever
fun
wanna-
project.
Not really. I mean, it's good, like hands-on stuff, but there's so much work in virtual school that it's when we don't have like long assignments, it's kind of nice when it's just like, okay, it takes 10 minutes to work on and then we're done with, as opposed to like, okay, this is going to take 3 days to work on.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good for learning for sure. And it's forced us to go outside and look up at the stars, which, like it's funny that you just like, at least for me, like I just don't do that as much as like I should, because once you go out there and you actually start looking up, it's just amazing what you can see, especially when you have like an app or a website or whatever you're going to use to kind of explain what these different stars and planets
And
are in the
especially if you're
sky,
not-
where they're at.
Especially if you're not in the city.
Oh yeah. There's definitely you can get, even out here. I mean, we get some light pollution, but certain times at night when it's really clear out, we can see quite a bit of stars out here. Where I'm at, anyways. You city folk, on the other hand,
Yeah, city folk. Best stars I've ever seen were in the Rocky Mountains. You're up so high and there's like no light pollution, and oh my goodness, it was really something.
Yeah, I can attest to that for sure. I was when I was a kid, I used to live in Colorado, and my grandparents lived out in this area, just right outside Colorado Springs, and it's of course changed now, so there's a lot more people that live out there, a lot more light pollution. But back then, I mean, there was barely any street lights really, um, and so you can see the stars really well out there. And then my grandparents had their neighbors, and their neighbors were like a mile down the road. I mean, that was the closest neighbor. They had a little cabin out in an area of Colorado called South Park, which is where the show South Park is supposed to take place. But in real life, so there is a real place out in Colorado called South Park. But anyways, one day their neighbors took us out to their cabin out there in South Park, and and it's probably like early aughts, but back then, I mean, and again, like this could have changed since then, but back then there was nothing out there in South Park. It was just there's nothing. But that's probably the best place where I'd been able to see the most amount of stars was in South Park, Colorado.
Yeah, I could imagine. We used to go camping once a year in the summer in the snowy mountains in Wyoming, and I remember once, like in the middle of the night, I probably was like 8. I had to go to the bathroom, so I woke up my dad, and he was all grumpy, and we're walking and look up, and like there's a meteor shower going on right then and there.
Oh wow, that's
it
cool.
was so cool. He was less grumpy after that.
Yeah, it kind of changes your perspective for sure,
Yeah.
because you don't see that every day, unfortunately. But yep, gotta every once in a while you should, at night, if it's clear out, wherever you're at, is step outside and just look up.
Unless you're in the city, then don't bother. You see the North Star maybe and the moon.
But even that's pretty cool. All right, that's a bust. Yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to get out back in the mountains again where there's no light pollution.
Yeah, I would love to get back to the Rockies someday.
You can get some cheap flights now.
Yeah, if you're willing to risk it anyway.
Yeah, it's,
Of course, Barbara brings our conversation and background to archaeology, pointing out how people use stars for navigation and all kinds of things. And constellations were kind of a universal, it seems, as far as we know.
Yeah, we had talked about this a few episodes ago, I think, about archaeoastronomy and, how that is a real thing. It's not just quack ancient alien stuff.
Right.
But you're right, people totally have, I mean, you can't ignore the, during nighttime, especially when there was no, electricity and modern lighting like there is today, of how awesome the sky once looked and how people tried to explain that and then also used it.
Actually, kind of cool too. If you look, there's a website which I can't remember right now, but if you, it shows you different constellation sets across different cultures. Kind of the
that's
thing
cool.
is like a lot of these cultures, like from across the world, ended up using the same stars and sometimes even made the exact same shapes. Like the Big Dipper exists in most cultures that we know of.
Wow, that's cool.
That's just cool. Yeah.
Oh wait, I think is that one you've done? Oh, you did that one. Yeah, there's a group of I'm trying to think the name. I'll have to look it up, but they're out in Hawaii, and they use the like kind of traditional uh, sailing navigational techniques by using the stars, reading the stars in the sky, and it's just incredible
Mm-hmm.
how they're able to navigate over these huge expanses of the ocean all by just by looking up. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff too that goes into it. They I'm trying to think of the name. I'm gonna look up the name of the group, but they have pretty active Facebook page.
Okay.
Hakula Crew, and I'm probably not saying it right, but it's a nonprofit organization, and it's the Polynesian Voyaging Society. But they've got a lot of really awesome videos that talk about how they sail around the world without GPS by using the stars as a guide, and it's all based on how they have done it for probably thousands of years.
Yeah,
But if you
it's pretty amazing what people in the past have done and managed
see
to
if
accomplish.
I would totally get lost. You know what I mean?
I
Like I
I
would
would die.
I'd be. We had, like a lot of these shipwreck narratives. The people are, like shipwrecked and then they're like floating out, and a lot of them were just like passengers, or, and at least in the historic time period, they needed their charts and stuff to figure out where they were at. Otherwise, they were just totally, you know, at the mercy of the ocean, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny if you look at a lot of these shipwreck narratives, how like very quickly, like within the first couple weeks, someone was getting eaten, because they were in such dire straits.
Uh,
But if you know how to, if you know how to use the stars to navigate, and by looking at the way that, I mean, some of these Polynesian voyaging society, and they talk about they're able to kind of read currents, like ocean currents, by looking at them
hmm,
and memorizing that. It's unbelievable. But if you know how to do that, then you can use all your navigational charts, and it doesn't really matter because it's all in your head.
right.
Which, of course, like, man, that is an awesome amount of knowledge to have.
It's a life
Like, I wish.
skill. It sounds like.
Oh, life. Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Like, it's got to be a lifetime thing, and really probably more like generational.
Oh yeah, that too. Of course. I mean, you wouldn't develop it in one lifetime.
No, 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 no. I mean, that has to be passed down from generation to
Right. You
generation
have
to
to learn it.
generation.
I mean, as far as learning it to use it. Yeah, a lot of people had to get lost probably to get to that point.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna put the website up there. I think that's it. I don't know why it was so long.
Your
Oh, maybe that was.
account of shipwrecks, survivors, and eating people made me think of some of the accounts of the Spanish in Pensacola, which they weren't eating people, to be clear. But if you read the records, as I recall, they they're always complaining that they're starving. There's no food. They don't have anything to eat. But when we look at the archaeological record, you don't expect to see things that would be growing here natively. So they weren't eating like shellfish and things because they didn't see those as proper food. And they were insisting on eating their food from that they were used to, which I just thought was fascinating. And that is an example of discrepancy between the records and the archaeology and why both are important. I don't know if
Yeah.
had you heard that before?
Yeah, I mean, for the records for at least the Luna colony, there's I think Dr. Worth had speculated at one point that the reason why they're saying we're starving in the documents, even though there's this abundance of resources and food all around them, and not that I'm sure that they were like there was a cultural starvation, like they really wanted to eat their own food, but to what extent were they withering away and dying and on the point of death starving is kind of more questionable, because it might just be a case of a bias in the actual document, where they're trying a lot of these documents that they're writing back to Mexico and to the crown, and begging for more supplies. That might have just been a way to try to get them to send supplies more quickly, or more of it, by saying like, "Oh, and we're starving." So, yeah, I mean, it could be they literally just refused to eat any of the resources around them, or just didn't have the local knowledge on how to acquire it and what they could eat, what they couldn't eat, because the native population that they were hoping to rely on to some extent for the expedition and or for the colony simply weren't helping them, because can't blame them. Like the treatment that the Spanish had you know brought to the indigenous people in the southeastern United States just a few decades before was pretty atrocious. I mean, we're talking slaughtering people, enslaving people. So it's not surprising that they didn't necessarily want to help them out 20 years later.
Well, they just weren't around.
Right.
Disease, we think, had wiped them out pretty much.
We do know that, yeah, certainly that's part of it. But we do know that there were some different native groups that were around, fairly close by to where the settlement was at, and they've recently found some documents, and by recently I mean within the last couple years, that explain a little bit more about the native population's relationship with this Spanish colonization attempt in Pensacola. And there, like I said, there were other native groups around. They just, as soon as they saw them, the Spanish coming, they pretty much just picked up and left, and then just made sure that they didn't leave anything behind that the Spanish could use, or as much as they could do that sort of thing, because they just didn't want to help them. And so that's like within the last couple of years, they've actually, one of my friends that I've known for probably over 10 years, she had done some archival research in Mexico City, and she came across some of these documents in the archives there, that I think there were some letters from a soldier, or some type of officer that was on that expedition, that described some of these interactions in a little bit more detail than what we had before those were found. But you're right. There was certainly not nearly as many people left because of the diseases that were brought with some of the earlier Spanish entradas, or exploration attempts into what's now the Southeast. And the native population did not have any immunity to any of these diseases that the Europeans brought with them. So people think of smallpox as being the big one, but influenza was probably just as bad. The flu kills a lot of people even now. So imagine a large population of people who had never been exposed to it before.
Right.
So it didn't necessarily take these really horrible things like the plague or smallpox to kill them off. It was, stuff like the flu.
Right. Some what we think are relatively common things. So I think we finished that radial already.
Yeah, I've been looking around and I didn't see any.
So I've moved us on to the next one.
Alrighty. Let's see, where are you? I see you. Being able to jump a
Jump
lot
range.
more it makes so much of a difference.
Yeah.
Makes life easier. Although it does make me have to fuel up.
Well, you should still have plenty.
Yes, I have quite a bit. Whoops. No. All right, here we go. No.
Okay, I'm dropping our base.
Oh, look at that. And just took me 2 jumps. I'm there. All right, well, it is about 1:50, so I think it's time for our spacecraft reveal
I think it is.
because there's a little bit of lull in conversation.
Yes. So what is the name of your
Okay,
spacecraft?
yes, the name of my spacecraft, and I had to Google this. So if you have to, Barbara, if you're still, if you're still there, then go for it. But it is Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark.
This isn't a sci-fi, huh?
Spelled the same as the famous expedition that maybe we can talk about a little bit since it's named after the spacecraft. Let me know if we have any guesses.
She's Googling.
Google away. Hopefully this is correct. It may not be.
Well, I'm sure everything we've said in this show
This
has been correct so far, so you better keep up that standard.
right? I mean, I always like to think that I qualify my statements because I say I think before I say it,
Yeah.
or after I say I might be wrong about that.
Uh-huh.
And like a few times I'll look it up, but luckily it's during the survey. So I feel like we've done a good job of correcting ourselves, or maybe Barbara corrects us, which is nice. Don't want to give out bad information. Although there's plenty of that out there. You don't have to, don't point fingers at us if we give out any inaccurate information, because there's plenty of it out there. But
Although-
hopefully, I like to think that we try to do our due diligence in making sure what we're saying is accurate.
Yeah, though do feel free to let us know.
Or just keep it to yourself.
Yeah. She said Event Horizon.
That's correct. Yeah, I was going to try to trick you guys by
Good
putting
thing we
it
got
Event
Google.
Horizon back. I know. But I mean, for people that may not need to use it. Yeah, so in Event Horizon, the movie, which we know from previous episodes that you have not seen, or at least then maybe you watched it since then. But in the movie, the Event Horizon is the ship that they find, but in the ship that they are, the rescue ship that they're coming to find the Event Horizon in, it is named Lewis and Clark. After, of course, the 1803 Lewis and Clark expedition. And this is an expedition that was organized by Thomas Jefferson, and he wanted to basically kind of survey some of the large portions of the western United States that Jefferson had acquired from France through the Louisiana Purchase.
Barbara said it's also a Navy ship.
Oh, I did not know. I did not know that. Although I'm not surprised.
I suppose it's kind of like Enterprise and some other ones too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those. But yeah, Lewis and Clark. One fun fact about Lewis and Clark expedition is, it lasted from 1803 to 1806. Let me pull up Wikipedia and make sure that's right. Wikipedia. Oh, there's a long article in here. Yeah, 1803 to 1806. I was right about that. Actually, it left August 31st, 1803, and they got back where they started on September 25th, 1806. This was also known as the Corps of Discovery. But what's interesting about it is they used mainly the river systems. That most of their traveling was actually done on the rivers
Mm-hmm.
on a keel boat. You think of them just like or at least I used to think as a kid like they just were like wandering around, hiking around, but that's not the case. They used rivers, and also a lot of the directions that they got came from the different Native American tribes and cultural groups that had lived there for forever, and they were literally like, yeah, you go that way. So it's not like these guys were just like going into the unknown like we are right now in this game. They were they kind of had maps in a way. They kind of did.
Well, this is
I mean,
kind of
they literally did.
this is kind of the same level of unknown though too, because we aren't the first ones who've been to these places still.
That's true. Yeah, I mean,
in the game world, there are other species and things that have been here before us.
right.
So
But
we are the first in the old European explorer sense.
Right. Exactly. That's a good point. But in that whole expedition, they're gone for 3 years. Only one, I believe, only one of them died.
That's actually really impressive because so many of those, everybody dies.
And do you know how this? I think it was one of the soldiers. Have you ever heard of how
No,
he died?
no, I haven't.
Appendicitis.
Oh, so
I
Yes.
actually had when I was a kid. I had appendicitis, and
Mhm.
let me tell you, that is a horrible way to die.
yeah, I imagine.
It was incredibly painful. Yeah, they had one death, and it says here on Wikipedia that at different points they had over 45 civilians, soldiers, guides, one enslaved man named York, who actually William Clark owned him. Uh, he was a slave. He was a slave owner, and so he was on that. Yeah. So, but yeah, out of
And
all
of
those
course,
people,
Sacagawea
Sacagawea, yes,
was one of their main guides and wife of.
of one of the French traders
Okay.
that also had gone along with the expedition. I mean, the French had been in that area for at that point, a couple hundred years, and so there was a lot of intermarriage between some of these colonial white European settlers and the indigenous people, and that had been something that had gone on since the beginning. And I'm sure not all of it was consensual, for sure. So
Sure. Although, as I understand it, France had quite a different tactic or strategy when it came with Native Americans. They
yeah,
tended
that's true.
to integrate more than some of the other groups did. Not to say that they didn't do some horrible stuff too, but it was just different.
Right, yeah. It was a few years ago, or a couple years ago, I guess, there was a Society for Historical Archaeology conference, which is like an academic conference that takes place once a year, and they host it in different cities, and so all these archaeologists get together and they present on their research through papers and sessions. And a couple years ago, it was in, and I know you know this, Tristan, because you were there. Was in St. Charles, Missouri, which is where the Lewis and Clark expedition started on the Missouri River, and that is where they kind of met up at, was in St. Charles. But I remember walking downtown and they had these, there's this giant statue to Lewis and Clark and the dog. They brought this big giant, I think it was a mastiff or something. Their dogs they brought with them, or maybe it wasn't a mastiff. I'll have to look at the breed. I'll have to look that up. But, anyways, they had all these signs, and there's like it's part of the Lewis and Clark Trail. So there's a big museum there, all about Lewis and Clark, the core of discovery. And I remember reading one of the signs, and they were in St. Charles for 2 days. I just thought it was so interesting that like this giant museum, these statues, and there's this really cool history of St. Charles, Missouri. Like there's this really fascinating colonial history and Native American history there, like all this amazing stuff. But I just thought it was so interesting that like they were there for just a couple days. I guess technically, maybe it was like a week. Maybe it was like a couple days. Maybe it was like a week total, or because I know they came back through the same area when they returned on their way back from when they finally reached the Pacific. They eventually came back, and so they came through the area again.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember being like, really. But St. Charles is a pretty cool place. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
And there was a snowstorm when we were there.
Yes, that was a very dramatic one.
And from someone who lives in Florida, snowstorms are always awesome, no matter how inconvenient they might make some things.
Yeah, you were like a kid. You were having so much fun, as I recall.
I wasn't the only one.
No. But you're having a great time.
Yeah, there was snow fights, and we went sledding. That was a lot of fun. I hadn't done that in years.
That's the one where I went to the airport afterwards to fly home, and the airport was on fire.
Yeah, that's right.
That was such a weird trip.
Yeah, it was. Good time. And you know what, though? With this COVID going on right now, I would, in a heartbeat, go through all that again. No problem.
No, it was a good time. If I'd been going there for a vacation, I might have been more salty about it. But conferences are a lot about socializing, and so it was a good opportunity to socialize more.
Yeah, I learned so much from, probably more so from just, after the papers, talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just getting out and seeing some of these different historical sites and how they're interpreted. I mean, I get so much insight from that because there's so many different ways and stories and different ways to tell those stories throughout the country or throughout the world, really. So it's interesting to kind of look at that perspective and see how that different lenses of the past are expressed at a local level. Oh, I've got pirates.
Surprise. I've just started running from them because I get tired of fighting them.
I have not gotten as nearly as many as I used to
They were
in
constant.
this game. Yeah, they're pretty annoying.
Just like in real life. No
Just
real
like-
threat, they're just annoying.
It's a flesh wound. Got work to do here, man.
You're impeding science.
But you can actually find the Lewis and Clark journals online. A lot of those,
Yeah.
those have been published, and so it's kind of fun to read through those. I can't imagine being on that expedition and you're going through all these, rough terrain and down these rivers, and then you hit the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
You're like, are you kidding me?
Right.
We got to go over that? I would have turned around. I would have been like, all right, I'm done, fellas.
You remember where they crossed? Was
And
it
ladies.
Wyoming?
I don't remember the exact location of where they crossed, but I'm sure I can find out if I look it up. Maybe there's a map.
Because I know the Oregon Trail and Mormon Trail and those all went through Wyoming, because that's really a much gentler route than through Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah, they went up. Looks like they went up from St. Louis, so they took, I guess, the Mississippi River up to Camp Wood, and then they headed west up the Missouri River, and that's where they met up with Clark in St. Charles, Missouri, which is where that conference was a few years ago. And then they took the Missouri River all the way and then I guess not too far into that expedition is where Sergeant Floyd, that's the one person who died of appendicitis. And then they took the Yellowstone River, and then looks like to the Columbia River, and they went through like Great Falls, and then they eventually did the Columbia River, and the Columbia River took them out to the Pacific Ocean. So that doesn't answer your question, but
No.
that's.
I was like, wait.
So yeah, the Rocky Mountains. I'll have to look and see where the Rocky Mountains, where they're crossing. So they don't. I had a few years ago. Well, not Sergeant Charles Floyd was the one who died. It says apparently from acute appendicitis. So I got that right, and he was buried at a bluff by the river, and there's on the Missouri River. It's called Floyd Bluff, I guess Floyd Bluff, and that's named after him because that's where they buried him. And he was a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. Man, what a way to die!
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. Knowing that sensation of appendicitis, no fun.
When I was back in undergrad, I was once shown a skull of someone who had died of a sinus infection. And it was actually so dramatic, it left like blackened traces like worms had eaten through the skull. It had like rotted away the bone and everything. And it's like, oh golly.
Okay, that is worse. It sounds much worse than appendicitis.
I don't know. I don't know enough about either. I mean, I have sinus infections, but that bad? I can't even imagine.
Looks like I have finally mapped this area and nothing. Wow, look at you, just on the move.
Yep, now we can see exactly.
Hey man, I was looking stuff up for Lewis and Clark.
You're providing
Very
content.
important.
That's an important role here. I have to keep things moving on the screen so it's visually more interesting.
Right, yeah, I figure it doesn't matter so much for me. Yeah, I'm trying to see where they crossed at. They built Fort Mandan in Washburn, North Dakota in 1804. I might have to just specifically search for where they crossed. Oh, there's a nice website that tells you all about it. Says this is from probably a reputable source. Looks like it. Says
Internet,
these
of course it
selections
is.
from Meriwether Lewis's journal describe the crossing of the Rocky Mountains, a particularly hazardous stretch of the Lewis and Clark expedition. In 1804, President Thomas Jefferson commissioned Lewis and Clark to explore the vast territory of the Louisiana Purchase, recently acquired from France. Thanks, Napoleon. Lewis
Yay.
and Clark. Thanks for having that giant war and
Losing all
losing
that
your
money.
losing all the money and losing all your colonies. So you had to pay for it by selling, most of America to what's now America to us. Not that it was really theirs anyways, but
Right.
Lewis and Clark followed the path of the Missouri and Columbia rivers through 11 present-day states to the Pacific Ocean. Both Lewis and Clark, along with several other members of the Corps of Discovery, record. Well, this doesn't tell me where they. I was hoping they would just tell me. And then it's got a few journal entries actually. This might be kind of interesting. So this is apparently from the journal entry.
Mm-hmm.
And who's? Let's see here. Oh, this is from Captain Meriwether Lewis. I guess this is from his journal entry, and I'll try to do it in like a Meriwether Lewis voice.
September 9th, 1805. The point of the Missouri where this Indian pass intersects it is about 30 miles above the gates of the Rocky Mountains, or the place where the valley of the Missouri first widens into an extensive plain after entering the Rocky Mountains. The guide informed us that a man might pass to the Missouri from hence by the route in 4 days. We called this Creek Traveler's Rest.
I like how oh, let's give this a new name, and there was like already a guide telling them exactly how to get there. Like there wasn't already a name for it.
I like how he's vaguely British.
That says in my mind. That's how I thought. And there's a bunch of other journal entries here. I don't know if I really want to read them all, but oh wait, this might be interesting.
September 19th, 1805. Fraser's horse fell from this road in the evening and rolled with his load near 100 yards into the creek. This was the most wonderful escape I ever witnessed. We took a small quantity of potable soup and retired to rest, much fatigued. Several of the men are unwell of the dysentery. Breakings out or eruptions of the skin have also been common with us for some time.
Yikes.
I'm going to submit this to Audible.
All right, here's another one.
September 21st, 1805. We killed a few pheasants, and I killed a prairie wolf, which together with the balance of our horse beef and some crawfish which we obtained in the creek, enabled us to make one more hearty meal, not knowing where the next was to be found. I find myself growing weak for the want of food, and most of the men complain of some similar deficiency and have fallen off very much.
At least they didn't eat anybody like those shipwreck survivors, you know?
Right.
All right, this is the last one. I'll read because I'm sure like this is getting really old, and I should probably do some more surveying.
September 22nd, 1805.
And I guess this is where like in the Rockies.
The pleasure I now felt in having triumphed over the Rocky Mountains and descending once more to a level and fertile country where there was every rational hope of finding a comfortable subsistence for myself and party can be more readily conceived than expressed, nor was the flattering prospect of the final success of the expedition less pleasing.
And that is from the Journals of the Lewis and Clark Expedition, September 9th through the 22nd, 1805, published by the University of Nebraska. And apparently you can, and I do.
Go Big Red.
Woohoo! Yeah, Lewis and Clark. Yeah, you can actually find the journals. Oh, cool. You can actually do so several years ago, there was this project called Next Exit History, and you remember this well, Tristan, but it was basically an app that would tell you different historical markers and give you information, and based on where you were at, would tell you different historical sites you could visit or whatever, and a little bit of information about them. And so they got a contract to do some for the Lewis and Clark, I think National Trail or something like that. And so I was part of a team that had to write some of these for. I think I had like 10 different sites that I had to write for. This is years ago. So anyways, my point is I remember using this journal for that, and I remember, and that's the voice I would use in my head. So I'm glad to make it more fun, because it's kind of tedious going through some of this stuff. Because it's like one day they're just like walking, they're on the keel boat again, and they got off and they need to get in more water, and then they shot a deer, and then they got back on the next day and they went up the river for X amount of miles, and a lot of kind of tedious stuff. But some interesting things.
There are like websites or something out there where people can volunteer to read things online for the hearing impaired.
Oh, I did not know that. Maybe I should volunteer.
I think you should do that. Do in that voice, of course.
I don't know if that's really doing them a service, though, doing it in a terrible accent. But I said I would stop reading the journal, but what if I read journal entries from October 2nd, since today is October 2nd, and let's just see what. Although sure. Maybe I should read some of these first, because I'm sure there's like offensive things in here.
Yeah, although depending on the situation, they could be useful for talking about, but we would want to make sure first, probably.
Yeah, let me see here.
Or you could always pull up some like pirate journals, ship captains. This could be a regular feature, Mike.
I think this is a great idea, and we could add this to the ship thing. This is interesting though, because in this journal it actually has not only Clark's perspective, but some of the other members on the expedition also kept journals. So what if I read from different perspectives on the same day?
That could be actually cool, because that shows a lot of characters sometimes. Can you do that many voices?
I can give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. Okay. All right. This is from Clark, October 2nd, which was a Tuesday. Wait, he says Tuesday, but it's Wednesday. Oh, he says it's Wednesday, but it's Tuesday. He got the day wrong. I mean, like, understandable. You know what I mean? Like, I can barely remember. But I guess he wrote that it was Wednesday, but it was actually Tuesday. It was October 2nd, 1805. This is from Clark. Dispatch 2 men, Fraser and S. Guterich, back to the village with 1 Indian and 6 horses to purchase dried fish and roots and etc. We have nothing to eat but roots, which give the men violent pains in their bowels after eating much of them. To the Indians who have visited us yesterday, I divided my handkerchief between 5 of them, with a small piece of tobacco and a piece of ribbon, and to the principal men each a ring and a brooch. I walked out with my gun on the hills, which is very steep and high, could kill nothing. Day hot, wind north. Hunters killed nothing except a small prairie wolf. Provisions all out, which compels us to kill one of our horses to eat and make a soup for the sick men. Okay, so that was Clark's perspective.
That makes it sound like a miracle that only 1 person died.
It does. Like, they're constantly hungry. And I wonder how much of that is like they're really starving, or they're just like,
being drama queens?
No, not drama queens, but, probably. But, like, I mean, these are, this is Lewis and Clark. So these guys were wealthy, and they were used to a certain style of living and food. So it'd be interesting to see if, like, some of the others, lower ranking soldiers on the expedition who may have come from lower class and were used to not being, bellies full of pheasants every night, if this was just like normal. So let's find out. So this is
Wait, before we go on, you've said this a couple times now, and I'm curious. You said prairie wolf. How is that spelled?
It's spelled
W-O-O?
P-R-A-R-I-E-W-O-L-F.
Okay.
I think he means a prairie dog.
He does, yeah, I think so. But I'm surprised that they call them prairie wolves.
Right, yeah. Okay, let me see. Sergeant. Okay, now this is from Sergeant John Ordway, and so this next one. So that was Lewis, or no, I'm sorry, that was Clark, and this is guy from a guy. He's a sergeant named John Ordway. John Ordway was one of 10 children. He was a young soldier from New Hampshire. And he was a major contributor. This is according to PBS. He was a major contributor to the expedition's success. Ordway was one of the few well-educated men recruited for the expedition, and then he did a lot of stuff. But this next entry is from the same day, but this is from this sergeant.
Wednesday, October 2nd, 1805. A fair morning. 2 men, sent with 6 horses up to the villages in order to purchase a quantity of salmon and root bread, which the natives call kamas. 1 hunter out in the hills. We continued on with the work. Towards the evening, the hunter came to the camp, had killed nothing but 1 prairie wolf, which we eat. The party are well so weak and unwell living without meat that our officers thought proper, with the opinion of the party, to kill a good horse, which was done, and we eat the meat as earnest as though it had been the best meat in the world. In the evening, we bought a few fresh salmon and a little kamas from the savages who are camped near us.
So not totally
Didn't
different.
seem as dire, though.
No. All right, so there's another one from the same day. This guy's his last name is Whitehouse, but let me look up and see a little bit of information about him. Stand by.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do this for every. I mean, there's so many days. There's a journal entry every day. We could do this for every survey from now on. Unless this is getting really ridiculous.
Well, we probably want to put a limit, but I think it's a good idea to do a little at least.
Okay, this is the last one I'm going to do. Okay, this is from Joseph Whitehouse. He was born in 1775 in Fairfax, Virginia. He joined the U.S. Army, and he did a lot of experience doing having contact with traders and Native Americans. It doesn't really say a whole lot about him other than that. So that's what we'll go with. So he's his rank. He's a private. So this is so we've seen the officer's perspective. We've seen the non-commissioned officers, kind of the old, the grunt Ordway's perspective, and now we're seeing the lowest rank on the expedition, a private.
Wednesday, 2nd October, 1805. A fair morning. 2 men sent up to the villages with 6 of our horses and some merchandise of trade for salmon and their kind of bread, etc. We continued our work as usual at the canoes. Some hunters out in the hills a-hunting. Towards evening the hunters returned, had killed nothing but 1 prairie wolf, which we eat. The party are so weak working without any kind of meat that we concluded to kill a horse, and accordingly we did kill a horse, which was in tolerable order, and we ate the meat with good stomachs as ever we did fat beef in the States. We bought a few fish, salmon, and some root bread from the natives, and etc.
And that's it. So
Seems to
that's
line
3
up
different perspectives.
pretty well.
Pretty lined up. You got to wonder though if these, at night when they're writing these journal entries, if they kind of compared notes.
Yeah, I wonder.
You know what I mean? Like,
They don't want to contradict the guy who's in charge.
right. And that will be our Lewis. That will conclude our Lewis and Clark readings. Did you notice how my accent for the last guy, there really wasn't any? I couldn't think of an accent for the private.
You got a little British again, I noticed.
A little tiny bit, I wish I would have known more about it, like his age. I was thinking he was probably younger, so I tried to give him like a younger.
Well, I had a younger
voice.
person in my head when you were reading it, so you succeeded.
Oh, all right. Okay, awesome. Good
But
deal.
for all we know, he was like 70.
Well, it said he was born in 1775, so
okay.
he was pretty young. So 17. So he was, how old is that? Hold on, let me do some math.
Historian doing math.
Well, actually, right now I'm just trying to figure out where I'm at in the galaxy. I'll do some math in a minute. Okay. Oh, he was okay here. He was 30.
Okay.
So he wasn't for back then, he wasn't that young.
Yeah, he wasn't all that young.
And he didn't die of appendicitis, so
There is that. He has that going for him.
what was it? What was our radial system? Well, I guess I could just look it up.
It has the
Yeah,
base in it too.
I gotcha, yeah. Well, that will be our new thing for our Lewis and Clark expedition readings.
Yeah, although we can. I think we
Invoices.
could branch out and try different journals too.
Other journals would be good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got a book full of shipwreck narrative entries from different time periods that might be interesting to
Yeah.
read through. Although maybe I should save that for Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
The shipwreck narrative one.
So far, we've been pretty. Haven't missed content on Sea of Thieves, I'd say.
No, that's true. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there.
It helps to have someone new on just to chat and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Running from pirates again. Speaking of such.
Yeah. You're not doing survey if you're not running from pirates.
Huh.
Man, I'm glad I have this mic for that reading. Hopefully that made it sound a lot better.
You took me back.
Took you back to I don't know where, but it took you back
Yeah,
somewhere.
to
I'm
wherever.
gonna bookmark this journal just for future reference,
Mm-hmm.
just in case we need it. That's cool. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it is interesting to see that at least in this one, everybody was basically saying the same thing. Like, yeah, we're all hungry and think, we ate that horse. Good thing we had that horse.
Right, right.
Which is also not uncommon in other shipwreck narratives I've seen, where they eat the horse. They'll eat the animals first. They'll eat the horse, or they'll eat the cat or the dog. Actually, we had a good our Zoom Into Archaeology series. Dr. Amy Mitchell Cook, she's a professor with our history department, as you know.
Yes.
And her dissertation was about shipwreck narratives and kind of analyzing these narratives and looking at the process of how did they go from that initial shipwreck to delving eventually in almost inevitably into cannibalism when they got to the point of starvation. But she she also wrote a book called Sea of Misadventures, and if people want to learn more, they can go on our YouTube channel and check out the Zoom Into Archaeology series and look at her talk, because she goes really a lot more into detail about this. But there was this whole process that they would go through where they would eat the basic animals at first, and then once the animals were eaten, then they would eat the leather shoes or whatever they could find that they could consume. And then once that was all gone, at the end, they would eat the first person who had died, and then eventually they would start drawing lots. So they literally would if you were the unlucky one, if you drew the shortest stick, then they would kill you and eat you. And that was just people agreed to do it. Well, I don't know how much they agreed to do it, because I actually there's actually a shipwreck narrative, and I don't know if you know about this, Tristan, but there was a French account, and it was in the 1700s, and it was in Appalachia Bay, and
Okay.
so it was out in the Gulf, and this merchant vessel wrecked, and there were only a few survivors, and it was a French guy, and I think his wife or his lady friend and her son and an enslaved man. And anyways, so he was the only one to survive, and and there's other documents that actually record this happening. but eventually he was a lone survivor, and he wrote a narrative account of what happened. But in his account, they actually eat this enslaved man. And then it's interesting though, because in some of these accounts and some of these shipwreck narratives, like the first person that always gets eaten seems to be like the poorest person or like the enslaved person.
Lowest
Like
status person.
they just happen to die first, which,
Right.
you know, probably isn't true. I think in the case of in this one account, he actually admits that he killed this enslaved man and they ate him.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, you can find it. There's a translated version of it that you can find online, and there are some. And I guess there's a Fort St. Mark's. This is on the St. Mark's River. What's the name of that? That state park down over there.
San Marcos.
Yeah, Fort San Marcos, which is a Florida state park. I've never actually been there, but it's a significant site because it was a Spanish fortification that was constructed there in I think in the 1600s. I think it was pretty early.
It's small
but,
and it's not a ton. They have a nice little museum and it's not a ton to look at, but when you start to dive into like the history there, it's like it's complicated. There's a lot of stuff that happened there.
And there's a lot of piracy that takes place there. I mean, it's such a cool
and layers of history. One of those sites too, more than you'd think.
Yeah, it's such a cool story of this site. But anyways, I guess this guy who had survived that eventually wrote this narrative that we have now. There are documents that the soldiers who are stationed at that fort. There's letters between them writing, "Hey, we found this guy who says he was shipwrecked." So there are documents that verify that this event wasn't made up, that it actually happened.
Or he said it happened anyway.
Well, I'm sure the exact way it happened was probably, there's certainly he had every reason in the world to make himself look as good as possible. But the fact that we have contemporary sources that say, like, yes, we found this guy was shipwrecked, and this is the condition that he was in, and we found the shipwreck itself, is nice to have that from a historical point of view, because it's, of course, like you mentioned, the details are subject to those biases, but to have something that corroborates this event gives us a little bit more confidence that this guy wasn't just writing a narrative to sell books, but in fact shipwrecked. And although that was certainly part of the motivation for writing some of these shipwreck narratives was financial.
I'm thinking of other fun things to read. You remember the I don't know how to say it, but like the New York Dwarves or whatever that were in Pensacola during the Civil War? The Irish regiment.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Their friars or chaplains account is kind of hilarious. Because he despised
Was he from
regiment.
Where was he from? Was he from New York?
I think so, yeah.
Was he Irish?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think he should just be Irish. I think I'll do him in an how you doing there, Sonny? Wait, that's more like Scottish. I have to work on it.
A little practice.
Just talk like Conor McGregor, and that'll be his voice.
Yeah, you have to watch a lot of Irish shows or comedians or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, I can handle that. That'd be fun.
It's your homework.
That's
more accents
for next. Yeah, for sure. I've got an endless number of accents. I've read a lot of children books over the past 8 years. I've read probably hundreds of them. And
bet you do a great cow.
I have good voices. I like to think that, anyways.
Yeah. Your audience appreciates them anyway.
Our audience of 2 people.
I meant your kids.
Oh yeah, they loved it when they were younger.
Right.
Not so much now.
Sounds like they're teenagers already.
You know, sometimes I kind of feel like they are. Let me see if you've done this one system. Man. All these distractions. I think you haven't done this one, so I'm just gonna go do it. Let's see here. Let me see what what would be the date for next. For the next time we do this, let me see here. Assuming no hurricanes happen.
Sure, yeah. Which is not a guarantee.
We're not out yet, you know,
No.
we're not. You know, I saw on my calendar, you know, today was supposed to be was the makeup day for FAS.
Oh, yeah.
Supposed to be today. Yeah. So October 9th would be next Friday. So I'll look and see at some point later on what the Lewis and Clark Journal says to see if it's worth doing again. It may not be, but then I'll see if I can get that shipwreck narrative one, that book I have, because it has everything from 16th century Portuguese to like much later on. Interesting.
What's up?
It's another sort of strange name, but maybe not.
You know if it says unmapped underneath the world?
Yeah.
If there's been a player that'll have their name, right?
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah. So that's one thing to watch.
Okay, that's totally not it then. And a pirate. I should say 4 pirates.
I was going to say, if it's just one pirate.
One, now there's one. Took care of that. Okay, let's see here. One, two, 3, 4, 5. I think I got them all. Maybe. Oh, no, I missed one. And nothing. Nothing. None. Nothing. Well,
One of these days, we'll find something.
one of these days. Oh man, I'm looking at the journal entry for next Friday. If
Is
we
it-
want to read it,
Is that a good one?
they're not eating prairie dogs anymore.
Uh-oh.
They're eating real dogs.
Oh, I was going to say, the appendicitis guy?
No, as far as I know, there was no act of cannibalism recorded on the Lewis and Clark expedition. So they say.
So they say.
Yeah, maybe they ate I was gonna call him Professor Floyd. Sergeant. Maybe they ate Sergeant. Is it Sergeant? I guess a Sergeant. Sergeant Floyd. And the reason why they were hungry the rest of the expedition is because they got their first taste of human flesh, and they just could never quench that hunger
Never
after
satisfy
that.
it.
That is totally not true.
No. Be a good movie, though.
An alternative history.
Seems like there's more systems with more planets lately. Have you noticed that too?
Yeah, to some extent.
I mean,
I
it
mean,
makes
you've
sense.
done more than I have.
They say they've added a bunch of planets to systems and things, and so I think that's what we're seeing. Very few, like 2 or 3 planet systems anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It's been a while since I've just found one or
I've had a
two.
few, but not a lot.
Found one more. And no. That's a no. Wait, where did it go? Trying to see if do we have any more systems? I mean, sorry. Yeah, systems in this one.
I think we've got plenty.
It's getting harder to tell. Stop doing so much work.
Earning my pay.
It's true.
Although your talents are more in the acting.
Voice acting.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, with this new mic, the possibilities are just endless, really. I mean, the pirate captain, I feel, would be a really easy voice.
Sure.
Although with some of these older journals, when they keep the spellings exactly as they had them, they're sometimes hard to read.
Yeah, but if you're reading them, that actually makes them more fun for me. There's more character in them then.
That's true. It does give you a little bit more sense of who they were as a person and how they would have spoken.
Four planets, 2 moons.
Wow, I can actually count and see how many I've done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Out of 40.
Seriously? Okay, wait, I did more than that. 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Wow.
Like I said, you're providing content.
Is that what I'm doing here?
It's hard to read journals and scan at the same time.
Yeah, it's actually impossible. Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let's find one.
Sure would be nice right about now.
It's not the destination, Tristan. It's the journey.
Right. I think it's just another way of saying negative data is still data.
Which I think that is not true, because the worst part of any trip for me is like having to get on the plane and get there. Like I'm there to
Right.
to the destination, you know. That's why I want to go.
I think that was created before airplanes.
But it would even be worse.
Right, I know. You have to eat your horses.
Yeah, if you
have to eat
anyone
prairie
who's ever
wolves.
played Oregon Trail, the point of the game is not to the journey. It's you want to get there. That's how you
Want to
win.
survive.
You want to not die of appendicitis or dysentery.
Right.
Although I don't know if you can die of appendicitis on that game. I know dysentery.
Don't believe so, but snake bites. Deathly green anomaly. That sounds like a fun planet.
Sounds like my kind of place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, a pirate.
Go figure. Yeah, that's how
Okay.
the guy on the Lewis and Clark expedition died, I presume, Barbara. She mentioned that appendix ruptures can lead to death.
Yeah, that's how he died. That's what they think, anyways. That's how I almost died. Mine almost actually erupted. And I think the problem is you get sepsis, you know, because the infection then gets spread throughout your body.
Right.
And then with modern medicine, I guess they can clean that out. But back then, like, it was pretty much.
I still think it's
If
pretty
you're-
serious.
Oh yeah, it's still serious, but you know, back in 1803, 1803 or 4, or whenever this guy died on the Lewis and Clark expedition, you know, the sepsis, once that set in, it was pretty much without antibiotic or surgery. There was really no hope for him.
Mm-hmm.
But still, pretty impressive that only one died.
Really is. And not even, I mean, you could say it was because of the journey, because they might have been able to fix it if he'd been in like a city or something.
But probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't know what the situation was like then, but yeah.
I mean, with my small amount of familiarity I have with medicine in the early 1800s, late 1700s, he probably didn't stand much of a chance.
Yeah.
You know, like really.
Oh, you know
They're
what?
like, let's bleed him. Maybe that
Yeah.
will help him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, no, that's
Someone
not
go
going to help
catch the
him.
barber
Yeah, go to the bar. Yeah,
for the bleeding, yeah.
I'm like, nah, I'm okay.
You know what I could do sometime is my guy Melvin Tibbetts, who was a war soldier on the Union side, he was from Maine originally. He gives a very detailed account of how his commanding officer helped him remove a bad tooth.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. And he almost died from that, actually. So, appendicitis, no joke.
Yeah. No fun. Very painful.
Yeah.
You'll know when you have it. Trust me. Yeah, see, I had it when I was 12.
Mhm.
So they didn't use the not endus. I guess, what do they call it? It's the small little camera that they use.
Okay.
Endoscopic. I think that's what it's called. Endoscopic surgery. So now when they excise the appendix, because that's what they just remove the appendix, because you don't need it to survive. It's not like kidney or anything.
Right.
I don't think they know exactly what function it used to do for the human body. I think as far as I am aware, and this may have changed, maybe they understand it now more than they did 20 years ago, but They think it was a vestige organ that might have helped, like earlier human ancestors digest certain types of nuts or berries or something like that.
Hmm.
But now it doesn't really do anything for you other than it can cause, it can get
Problems.
inflamed, can get infected, and then cause problems. But back then they didn't have endoscopic surgery, so they had to actually, give me one of those surgical cuts,
Mm-hmm.
which those are fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure.
But I tell people if they ask me, I'm like, oh yeah, I got into a. I always tell them like a story that's not true.
I didn't have appendicitis, but I've got a scar from when I was a baby, and I tell them I was in a knife fight.
That's what I usually say too.
Yeah.
Knife fight. And people are always like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Tell them about this project I was on, and we went to a small town bar, and they didn't like us, and I don't know. I don't usually go in that detail, but I totally could.
You should.
I'm a really bad liar, just so you know.
It's probably a good thing.
I'll accept it. I mean, certain
unless you're-
board games are no fun because I can't really participate.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are supposed to be about deception, but that doesn't work for me so much.
You wanna play poker sometime?
Yeah, right.
That's the only way I can win that. Oh, you already did this system. Whoops. All right. Deleting. Yeah, the good old I got stabbed in a knife fight story is
Mhm.
it's a classic for anyone who has a surgical scar. There's probably some gullible people walking around thinking, man, I've known like 10 people that have been in knife fights.
Yeah.
What is up with all these knife fights?
I've done that one too, Mike.
Yeah, I just saw that. Stop being so efficient. Oh well, I'm just burning your fuel, you know?
Right, right.
No skin off my back. Oh well.
Oh, well. It's okay. I am apparently growing antimatter now, so we're okay.
So where do you have that machine at? Is it on a planet somewhere?
I've got a base I set up before we started doing all this.
Hey,
refining it.
wait, does that count as a player built?
Yes.
Should we record it?
I
in case
suppose if
someone
we
else-
stumbled across it by accident, which I don't see happening, then we would. Or if we're ever just truly desperate to record something, maybe.
I'm not that desperate yet.
Yeah, me either.
Not yet. Getting close.
This is nothing. Gone for a month without finding artifacts.
Yeah, wow.
I don't actually know how long it was. Feels like forever, though.
Okay, I don't think you've been to this one. E. Hanky. That's where I'm going.
Get that moon. Yes.
Oh, they just said, I saw yesterday when we had Hurricane Sally a couple weeks ago, the couple of the company that was building the bridge called Skanska, they have these massive barges that have lots of equipment on them that they use to build the bridges with. But I guess like something like 22 of them were they had anchored in anticipation of the storm, but they didn't anchor them down that well because they didn't think the storm would be that bad. But of course it was, and all these 22 of them snapped loose, and a couple of them smashed into people's homes, and a couple of them smashed into the bridge and caused major damage to the what we call the 3 Mile Bridge, or the Chappie James Bridge, which connects the mainland from Gulf Breeze across Pensacola Bay into Pensacola. Anyways, it caused major damage to this bridge, and so the bridge has been shut down for 2 weeks until the Florida Department of Transportation and bridge engineers come out and assessed it. And they initially told us it would be between 1 to 2 months probably before it was repaired and operational again. And of course, that's a problem for like all these people who commute.
Right.
Not that there's not other routes. It's just the other routes are a lot longer, and now everybody's going the same way, so the traffic's just outrageous.
And they aren't built for that amount of traffic, probably too.
No, certainly not. And then, but anyways, yesterday the Department of Transportation came out and said that it would be 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Before it was repaired.
Whatever was it, 2 to 3 months? I thought that sounded optimistic.
Yeah, they said. Yeah, I was like, well. So tie up your barges.
Yep. Important lesson. Do you know there's a book called on Amazon, at one point at least, titled "How to Avoid Big Ships"?
I did not know that.
There used to at least be kind of this subculture of joke reviews. People would find something really ridiculous, and they would do like a whole series of just joke reviews about it, and that was one of their favorites. How to avoid huge ships.
Now it could be how to avoid huge bridges.
Yeah. Tie down your barge would be
tie
one
them
answer.
Down, man. Gotta use more than one anchor, I guess.
Yep. At least it wasn't the Archaeology barge that went crashing into things.
Well, yeah, I think that barge would have just been smashed to pieces if it hit the bridge.
Probably even just being pulled up from the anchor, from what I understand. It's an old barge.
Oh no, they've got a new one now. The old barge is now an artificial reef.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I remember hearing that now. Well, good. It sounded rough. I hadn't actually been out on it.
I'd been on it, I think twice, 2 times I'd been on it, and yeah, it'd seen better days by the time that I had visited it. But it was towards the the last couple years that they were using it that I had been on it. But it was definitely time for a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if that barge was. I'm trying to think the last time I had seen it out there in the water. I don't think it was out there during the hurricane, but I may be wrong about that. Because they haven't used it for a while. They didn't use it last summer because of COVID.
Yeah, I imagine dive gear and sterile conditions would be hard to accomplish real well. I know you're supposed to be able to share breathers with people.
Yeah, that's
have
true.
You been
but
tested?
Usually, right. But I mean, you're generally speaking, you don't usually use your secondary unless something happens.
Right.
But of course, you got to check and make sure it works before you go. So yeah, I guess
And that's
you
not
would have
exactly
to-
the deepest area there either.
No, no. Got more pirates.
Oh, looks like our time's up. So finish up your system and
Yeah,
we'll call it a day.
Yeah, I'm done with it. I just got defeat these pirates. Yep, there we go. Done. And that's a none.
One more planet. Nope. Well, Mike, thanks for joining for another archaeological survey in No Man's Sky. For anyone watching this, we will have this up on our YouTube channel here eventually. I had a little computer trouble with last week's. It's still on the way, but I just had to free up some space on my computer because 2-hour videos take up a little bit. So you can watch old ones there, or and we also of course have our new website you can check out, which details the project and what we're looking to accomplish and how many systems we've scanned and how many things we haven't found. So, all right, until next time.